So practical tools, I want to talk about that. So when we're enrolling people and we're actually creating relationships, and we're assisting people to realize the value and results that we, as we've spoken about, we already know. And we do that, and the only way we can do that is through asking quality questions with people. So we need to build a relationship. We need to create, a connection with someone, so that we can share this information like it spoke about in that enrollment process. So what do we need to do to be able to do that? And a lot of you are aware of this. When we talk to enrolling people and we talk about engaging with people, a lot of it is all about questions. But the questions start with ourselves, this internal dialogue that we have ourselves. It's not just the questions that we present to other people, it's the questions, our internal dialogue and our internal questions that we ask ourselves. So what we can do is ask ourselves and prepare ourselves by asking things like, how can I assist by enrolling this person to see the benefits that I know? So if we're asking this question of ourselves, we're going to come up with solutions to that, or we're going to come up with ways around that we can actually start to connect with people, start to allow them to understand what it is that we already understand about these programs and services that we're offering here. How can we allow them to look, sound and feel great? This is what it's all about at the end of the day. When we're creating relationships with people, it's all about us wanting to create an environment or a experience for them where they're feeling, where they're looking, sounding or feeling great about themselves, or the opportunity or the program, the service, whatever it is that we're doing. I'm obviously relating this to this past sale that we're doing, but it's also very relevant to across all the other areas of our business, and not just in our business, in life in general. Okay, so something to really think about, the questions that we're asking ourselves in relation to establishing relationships with people. Sensory acuity is a big thing. I'm sure a number of you are aware what that is. Sensory acuity is really a person's ability to recognize the subtle little things and behavioral patterns through modalities that people have. Now, our modalities, and I've got a presentation that I want to do with you guys and with the staff on this, but modalities are basically our senses, right? Okay, we can take information in through our bodies. The only way we can take information in is through our senses: visual, auditory, kinesthetic, our olfactory or gustatory system. Okay, this is just sight, vision, hearing, and they're the main ones. And then, touch, obviously, then smell and taste. They're the only ways that we can take external information in. So it's looking at and having what's known as a sensory acuity as to what's going on for the people that we are creating or trying or working to create a relationship with. Okay, so this is all about focusing on training our senses to be aware and to identify little clues and patterns that people exhibit, and being able to pick up on those sort of things. And it could be as simple as someone, making a little, when you say something, their eyes going to the top and them thinking about it, or, a little gesture as to, you can see that it's not quite sitting right with them, that sort of thing. So that's sensory acuity. Creating introductions and having impact with the introductions that we create, which is about relationships again. How will you gain someone's attention and make an impact on them? Because that's what we're looking to do. We're looking to impact people through the medium of these swimming pools, and especially at this point in time, these training programs for aqua and then also for adult squads. We're looking to make an impact on their lives and with them. So how do we get their attention, and how do we have the ability to be able to do that? There's a number of different ways, matching and mirroring, and I'll talk in depth about this in another training later on. But matching and mirroring is simply people, and I think it's the next one, pay compliments is one, but matching and mirroring is where we match and mirror what people are doing. And what it does is it creates a rapport, which is what we're going to talk about soon, rapport building. So when I say what people are doing, listen to their language, match the language that they use, their body movements, those sort of things. Paying compliments obviously is a big one, to be creating introductions and impacting people. Make use of common scenarios. What things do you have in common? In this situation, when we're talking about a pass sail training or we're talking about our swimming facilities, we obviously have the swimming facilities in common. So there's so many different things, so many different topics and scenarios that we can bring up, that we can communicate with two people that we have in common. So use those to be able to create introductions and relationships with people, so that we can get this message that we want to share across with them. Be respectful and present in the moment. So be respectful to them, but also we need to be present in the moment and with them. I know at times in the shops and the facilities there's so much going on, and there's your attention gets divided. But if we can, take the time to actually be present with these people when they come in. Rapport building. So how will you avoid disconnects and keep them engaged? So we all know about rapport. We want to build rapport with people or have a connection with people. I have this analogy of a rapport bank. It's not mine. It's I'm sure people have heard it before. A rapport bank. Basically, a rapport bank works in relation to, if you think about a bank, we make deposits into the bank. So we make deposits by making compliments, by engaging with people, that sort of thing, to build up our bank balance there, so that, if there is an instance one day where the heaters break down or something like that, and the water's cold, we've got rapport already banked up that we can actually still influence them. And what we don't want to do is overdraw our rapport bank, because if our rapport bank is overdrawn, basically what's going to happen is we're not going to have customers, or we're not going to have that customer. So really thinking about rapport bank, and how can we continue to make an environment and a experience for them that is impactful. Matching and mirroring, which we spoke about above, that's another way that we can build rapport. This is a classic statement. People like them. People like people that are like them. So, if we can be more like them, and I'm not suggesting we change ourselves, but we just, look at, what is it that's important to them? How can we interact with them? People do business with people that they like. It's a fact. People do business with people that they like. Wow, there you go. You want them to think that there's some connection, or not that you're the same, but they're similar. There are commonalities between us and between our clients, between the people that we want to get these messages across to. That's what rapport building is. Be engaged and present, which we spoke about. Shake hands, connect through the eyes, those sorts of things. It makes a big difference. It really does. Understanding and appreciating their world. What drives and influences them? What do they want? What do they value? What do they fear? What do they believe? To enroll someone, you first must understand what influences them. You need to understand what are the things that are key to them. And there are a number of things there. Understand their world. They have a personal world. Most people have a professional world as well. We all have life in SwimFit. We all have life outside of SwimFit. So understand what happens for them, outside of what they do professionally, and then potentially what they do professionally. And obviously we have people in our aqua classes and that sort of thing that are retired, but they still have other things that they do outside. Separate personal and professional identity. So understand which when we're talking about personal stuff and when we're talking about professional stuff, understand the differences between those and work between them as well. Understand both their personal, it's the same thing. Ensure you're engaged. We've spoken about that. So it's the third time that's come up now, and that's because it's so important to make sure you're engaged with people. Listen to their language. Language is such a huge thing. Language, especially when you're thinking about modalities, which, as I said, we'll do some more training on. If you find a visual person will say, they'll use language like see, look, those sorts of things, whereas an auditory person will use more language around hear. I hear this, or I hear what you're saying, those sort of things. Be aware of that. Be aware of the language that they use. If we want to feed, if we can use some of their language, what happens is we build rapport and we build connection with people. So feed back their language. they use through questions. This will show A, that you've been listening, it will deposit in your rapport bank, and it shows that you're similar to them as well because you're using similar sort of language. Allow them to be the expert to teach you. It's a great thing. We're here to serve them, we're not here to serve ourselves. So allow them to be the expert and tell us what's going on, to teach us. We need to understand from them as well what their experience is. And this starts to talk about 6 human needs, which I know you guys, we've been through as managers, but we can do a video on that for our staff as well so they can understand that also. Questions. Okay, questions are the key to creating relationships. Quality questions are the key to enrollment as well. Differently worded questions can give you completely different responses. And we're nearly finished with this. So questions that start with, I just wanted to share this quickly with you. Questions that start with what? Okay, so a what question, what do you think? We'll give you a fact or it's a closed statement. So it will give you a fact or it's a closed statement. It's the end of a conversation when you ask a what question. Okay, why will give you a story. If you ask someone a question that's starting with why, what it's going to do is it's going to give you a story, okay, about some experience that they've had. Who will give you, if you're asking a question about who, it's going to give you obviously a response that is about a person or someone that is close to them or something like that. When will give you a time. So if you're asking a question that starts with when, blah, 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 that will give you a time frame. It's going to give you a date or a time or something like that. Where will give you a position. So a where question, if you're asking where did it happen, it's going to give you a position of, an environment or a location. And how will give you an experience. So a how question will give you an experience. Out of all those questions, the one that will create the greatest impact with people, that will create the greatest rapport, that will allow us to connect with people are how questions. Something to consider.